Today, Antarctica is the coldest place on Earth, a frozen continent of endless ice, violent winds, and near total silence, where temperatures collapse so low that exposed skin can freeze in minutes, where almost nothing survives, where even the largest land predator is no bigger than an insect. And yet this same land, this same continent, was once something completely different. Because 50 million years ago, Antarctica was not frozen at all. It was a rainforest. And not just any rainforest, but a vast prehistoric world of dense forests, flowing rivers, and warm, humid air at the very bottom of the Earth. A place that by every rule of nature should not have been possible. And what makes this even more unbelievable is that this wasn't a small, isolated patch of life. This was an entire continent transformed, a forest that stretched for thousands of miles without interruption. And we know this because buried beneath kilometers of ice, scientists uncovered something impossible. Ancient soil, fossilized roots still embedded in the ground, and microscopic pollen from plants that could only exist in warm, wet environments. Evidence of a forest that once stood where today nothing grows. And if you could stand in Antarctica back then, you would feel warmth. Thick, heavy air pressing against your skin, humidity clinging to every breath, the ground soft beneath your feet, and above you, rain falling slowly through layers of dense vegetation. Not snow, not wind, but rain, drifting through towering trees that stretched endlessly into the sky, some rising tens of meters high, their branches tangled together, forming a canopy so dense it blocked out most of the light, trapping heat below and creating an environment that felt alive in every direction. And beneath that canopy, the forest floor was layered and crowded, endless ferns spreading outward, ancient plant species rising through thick undergrowth, some resembling nothing that exists anywhere on Earth today, while between them, rivers cut slowly through the land, wide and dark and silent, their surfaces disturbed only by insects skimming across the water, wetlands stretching for miles, thick with life, thick with movement. And this was not a brief moment in time. This world lasted for millions of years, long enough to feel permanent, long enough that nothing living here would have ever known a frozen world even existed. And within this environment, life adapted in ways that feel almost unreal. Small mammals moved cautiously through the undergrowth, alert to movement, while above them early bird-like creatures glided silently between branches, and insects filled the air, some larger than anything that exists today, thriving in a world fueled by warmth and abundance. Because this was a completely different Earth, a greenhouse planet where global temperatures were significantly higher than today, where there were no polar ice caps at all, and where ocean currents carried heat across the entire planet, even to the poles, creating conditions that allowed forests to exist in places that are now completely frozen. And if you're drawn to these kinds of lost worlds, environments that once existed but were completely erased by time, this is exactly what this channel explores. The forgotten versions of Earth that existed long before us, the places that feel impossible but were real. And what made Antarctica truly extraordinary was not just the forest itself, it was where it existed. Because even then this land sat near the South Pole, and every year darkness came. Not ordinary night, but something far more extreme. For months at a time the sun disappeared entirely. No sunrise, no sunset, just endless darkness stretching across the forest, a world without light. Something no modern rainforest on Earth could survive. And yet this one did. Plants slowed their growth and endured, conserving energy through long periods without sunlight, while animals adapted their behavior, feeding differently, moving differently, surviving in a system that should have collapsed, but didn't. And it did not exist in isolation either, because at the time Antarctica was part of a vast supercontinent connected to South America, Australia, and beyond, forming a massive biological corridor where life could move freely across continents. And through these forests, dinosaurs walked, real predators moving through dense vegetation, including Cryolophosaurus, a powerful carnivore over 6 meters long, hunting with curved teeth designed to grip and tear, while smaller predators moved unseen through the undergrowth and herbivores fed on the abundance of plant life, creating a complete and balanced ecosystem. But this was not a safe world, because beneath the surface something was already beginning to go wrong. Volcanic activity reshaped parts of the land, eruptions sending ash and fire across the forest, altering entire regions in moments. And over millions of years, something far greater began to unfold. Tectonic forces deep within the Earth were slowly pulling continents apart, and Antarctica began to drift, separating from the rest of the world, becoming increasingly isolated. And when that isolation was complete, everything changed, because a powerful ocean current formed around the continent, circling it completely, cutting it off from the warm waters that had once sustained it. And with that single shift, Antarctica lost its connection to global heat, and the temperature began to fall. At first, slowly, almost imperceptibly, then faster, more severe. The forest weakening year by year, wetlands freezing at the edges, plant life struggling to survive, rivers slowing, then stopping entirely, growing seasons shrinking until they could no longer sustain the ecosystem, and ice beginning to spread, first in patches, then across entire regions, until eventually the rainforest collapsed, replaced by a frozen desert of ice and wind. And when the collapse began, it did not happen all at once. It happened slowly enough that nothing alive could understand what was happening. And just as life was trying to adapt to a dying world, something far worse was already on its way. Because around 66 million years ago, an asteroid impact reshaped life across the entire planet, sending dust into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and triggering a global collapse that wiped out around 75% of all species, including the dinosaurs that once walked through these forests, leaving behind a world that would slowly rebuild itself, colder, harsher, quieter. And over millions of years, Antarctica became what we know today, buried beneath kilometers of ice. Yet beneath that frozen surface, the past still exists, preserved in silence. Ancient forests, hidden landscapes, entire ecosystems locked beneath the ice, a lost world waiting beneath our feet. And everything that lived here adapted perfectly to a world that no longer exists. A reminder that Earth is not fixed. It shifts, it transforms, and sometimes it erases entire worlds as if they were never there at all.